Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Stacey Dagani. I'm the events manager at the National Film and Video Foundation. I'm not by myself this afternoon. I am with the incredible Nombuso Makubane, who's our marketing and communications manager, and of course our incredible guest for this afternoon, who I'll introduce to you in 1 second. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for one of 3 gender-based violence events hosted by the NVF. Today, we are in conversation with the incredible Uga Carlini. She's a multiple award-winning filmmaker, and she is basically one of South Africa's most versatile and celebrated directors. She's the founding member of Tawakop Creations, a film company that has been specializing exclusively in female-driven heroine stories since 2010. Uga has, of course, won multiple awards, one being the best screenplay at the 2017 Writers Guild of South Africa Muse Awards, as well as the best documentary of the African continent at the AMVCA 2017 Awards. She's also won the International Humanitarian Filmmaker Award. These are just a few awards under this incredible woman's belt. I'd like to welcome Uga. Hi, Uga.
There you go. Hello. Thank you for that introduction.
No, only a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Pleasure to be here. I think we've got important things to talk about.
Definitely.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. Let's start off. I would like to know, tell us when the passion for filmmaking started for you, and when you decided, out of all the, filmmaking genres that we have, why did you select documentaries?
Okay, so first part of the question, this is always what I wanted to do. I think it was clear when I was apparently the story goes in our house, when I was about 3 or 4 years old, I would turn the news down, I would turn the weather down, and I'll take charge of it and do it my way. To everyone's annoyance, apparently. So it was just always what I was going to do. For some reason, my second choice was always being a detective, but really, for me, that goes hand in hand, because isn't that really what storytelling is? Whether it's a visual detective, whether it's a word detective or a performance detective, it's one big detective story anyway. So it just always was what I was going to do. I started a bit differently. I came in from an actor's background. I believe, also because I believe for a director that's just how I wanted to do it. And then from there, I merged into the director side of things. But I was always just doing it, either one of them anyway. On the question of documentary, I'm a filmmaker, right? So that's how I classify myself. So whether I'm making a music video or a documentary or a fiction or whatever, for me, it's about the genre that best serves the story. And in the case of Alison, which we're going to talk about today, I really wanted her to be a part of her own story so people could see this miracle and this incredible woman that is every one of us. Because I always say, if Alison could survive that, we can do anything. We can honestly do and survive anything. That doesn't make it okay, and that doesn't minimize the pain and the hell, but it's certainly some light to hold on to in a very dark tunnel for many. So so for me, documentary was the best genre to do right by the story of a very, very incredible woman and some very incredible people in that journey, because this is the other thing, and I think, I'm sure we're going to touch on it today, it's one thing to be a survivor, but it's very hard when you're alone in that journey of survival. And I think Alison's story is that reminder about what support can do for people. And I think that's always the focus for me. I'm not interested in the perpetrators because they don't deserve our interest. I'm quite harsh that way. I'm interested in the survivors, in the support, in the where do we go from here? Because the other thing I think that often happens is after the deed, after the attack or the trauma, you know, people sort of give it like for a month or two or so. They're like, oh, shame, are you okay? And then everyone goes on with their lives, and rightfully so. But that trauma, it's always there. And it's always triggered. And yes, I think over time, the survivor gets better at finding ways to cope with it. But it never goes away. You never get that hole back. You never get what's lost and being taken from you back. You just find ways to deal with it. And that for me, again, it was why documentary was the right nest for this story. But I absolutely love all these genres. It's like and that's why I can't say which is my favorite. And I think what you also see when I make a documentary, fiction styles slide in there, or when I make fiction documentary, I have that in me. Just grab that shot. To my producers, I drive them mad. But you know, because it's just in the moment what works best for the story. So yeah, it's always been in my blood. Yeah,
it's in your blood. It's in your blood. Thanks, Uga. As Uga has mentioned, we are discussing the incredible work that she did on a film called Alison. It's a story of Alison Buerta, miraculous survival story of adversity, a heroine. Here's the trailer.
So many people want the happy fairy tale ending for me. So do I. But for now, it keeps eluding me. I can remember it as if it was yesterday. I was abducted at knife point, taken to the bushes on the outskirts of the city, raped by 2 men, strangled, stabbed in my stomach in excess of 36 times, disemboweled, and had my throat cut 17 times. It was horrific and scary and wrong. And I survived. And I think that's where the journey started. We actually are capable of a lot more than we allow ourselves to think. This is my tale, my way. And it's not the end.
Wow. I mean, just watching that trailer, there's so many emotions that are running through my body, because you can tell that, you know, it's an intense movie, but also the fact that it's a true story, it's even more impactful for me. So I just want to find out from you, you know, as a filmmaker, why did you decide to make this emotional film? And how did you come to hear of Alison's story?
Okay, so this attack happened in 1994 in South Africa, and I actually missed it. Believe it or not, I mean, I was writing grade 12 at the time, and then I went into university, and in those days it wasn't like cell phone and what is it, iPads. It's just not how. I mean,
none of that.
It was like there was the cell phones, but the rich kids had the cell phones. I did not have a cell phone. So, you know, it was sort of like that. There were cell phones, but I didn't have one, blah, blah. So I sort of missed the whole story. And then in 1999, because I studied drama at university, post that, someone gave me the book as a gift, Alison's actual book. And then in the week that my friend gave me this book as a gift, I was visiting my mother, and Alison was doing a talk at my old high school. So everything just worked out, you know, as these things go. And I was like, no way, I'll go listen. And I went on my own, actually, and I arrived at my old high school, old DF Milan there in the northern suburbs, forgive me. But I arrived there, and so many people showed up for this talk that they had to move it from the school ground from the school hall to the rugby fields. And I think my old high school, there were about, obviously, you know, there were a lot of rugby fields. I think there were like 4. And all these people were just packed in, and there was a rush to get like intercom systems up, not intercom, but like sound systems up so everyone could hear. And I stood quite far back, and Alison was a dot right there at the front. But one of the speakers were right here by where I was sitting. And they were like, it was insane how many people showed up for this thing, and all kinds of people, like, you know, big, sturdy men. I was surprised to see who showed up for this talk, because it wasn't just women. And as I sat there, I just watched how these people were listening to this woman, to this tiny woman. I mean, if I had to do a lineup of 10 women and say to you, one of them survived this, you would not choose Alison, because she's not the fighter type. She's not athletic. She didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. You know, she's not that person. And I thought to myself, sitting there, one day when I'm big, I want to tell this woman's story. That was 1999. So fast forward to 2011, when I've now decided I was big enough, and the rights of the book became, at the time, was available, and I was like, okay, so I've never made a film. I had my Alien story trailer that I did, which was sort of floating around. I had nothing else, and I knew Alison was doing a talk at Old Mutual. You know, my detective, you see, found out that she was at Old Mutual. And I managed to, via the lawyer who did her book deal with Penguin, get an email, and I managed to convince her to meet me for a coffee. And a friend of mine, an old school friend of mine, was the manager at Lazari's, this coffee shop in town, and they just won, this is a very important part of the story, the best cupcake in South Africa, which was this pink cupcake. It's vanilla inside, and it's some strawberry secret recipe for the icing. And I was like, right, Marlene stacked that table with cake, with petals, I mean, I walked in there, it felt like a wedding, but just for us. And I sat Alison down, and I just told her about that day in 2011 on the rugby field. I told 2009, sorry, on the rugby, because now we're in 2011 in the coffee shop. And long story short, I convinced Alison to give me the rights over Hollywood offers, over money, because I couldn't pay her at the time. And I said to her, but what I can give you is, and that is how I make films. It takes a while often, but it gets done, and it gets done with integrity, and it gets done with love and honesty, and I'll protect her, and I'll protect her story. And that's how it started. And that was 2011. So 2012, the process started. And I mean, obviously the NVF were incredible partners of mine. So was the DTI. But Jan du Plessis, who didn't really take on documentaries at the time, I shot him a promo that I made with the help of the NVF. And Jan said, okay, how much do you need to make this film? And I was like, I'll get back to you in an hour. Like, calling every favor I knew, because this is my first film. And by 2015, the camera started rolling. And 2016, the movie came out. So I just want to illustrate to people listening. So 1999, I read the story. 2011, I meet her for a coffee. 2015, the camera started rolling. 2018, it gets sold internationally.
Wow.
And here we go. You see, 2016, it comes out in South Africa for Women's Month, in conjunction with the Butterfly Revolution that I'm sure we're going to touch on as well. But yeah, so that's how things go. And sometimes, you know, some people, it's not always about money. And I just want filmmakers to know that, you know, it's and whoever else is listening, it's about the dream, and it's about the integrity. and connection and cupcakes, actually.
And cupcakes.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, imagine, you know, a dream from when you were so young, you know, you were connected, and it's clear that, you know, fate also plays such a critical role in this, that, you know, it brought you guys together. So that's just, it's beautiful to hear that. So I just wanted to find out, when depicting a woman's pain, you know, especially this kind of pain, what consideration went into delivering an accurate message across to audiences?
Well, you know, I think as South African women, there's a lot of pain to go around, isn't there? I mean,
Yeah.
if 1 out of every 3 women that we know of has been raped,
Yes.
this excludes violent abuse, this excludes emotional abuse. This is just raped, right? And this means these are the women who reported it, which I know is less and far and in between from the ones who don't report it is more. Let's face it, right? Because it's not a simple task. So I think we all have, if we don't have our own pain to draw from, we 100% have someone we care deeply about, a female in our lives we care deeply about, who do, if we are lucky enough to know about it, because the amount of people who just walk around with it. So yeah, I just think, and I think there's very much a pain body in South Africa for so many reasons. I mean, politically, our past. Yeah, so I think, that's a good bloody question, Miss Levine. Yeah, it's there to begin with, and then you know what it is. It's about listening to the other person share their pain, and this is an uplifting movie. This is a movie. I never give into the dark side. So this is about how the good prevails, right? So it's very uplifting, and I don't want anyone listening to be afraid, because they can watch it on Showmax for free at the moment. And if you don't have Showmax, just sign up for free for a month and watch Alison, because I think you can sign up for free for a month. And you just you need to Google Alison in the search bar. It's not on the trending bar at the moment because it's an old movie, obviously. But it's about, you know, there's a lot of healing in listening to other people's pain as well, or just giving people the platform to talk. And that's why they always say, even if you just talk about it, it starts to the right person in a safe space. Let's also just add that. It starts lightening the load. And that's what this was about. I don't think we always need to understand someone's pain, but by listening, the dialogue is open. By listening, the understanding starts developing, because not everyone are empaths either. We all process differently. We all connect differently, right? So in a nutshell, for me, it was more about opening the conversation and letting Alison talk, the actors interpret, the sound designers interpret. Obviously, I have my own ideas, and as the director, that's the through line. But it was one big village of interpretation and depiction and understanding of pain that is, you know, sort of a collective, how can I say, voice for this film. But it's not about the pain. It's about the triumph. It's about getting through it. It's about, how do we not let them take what's left forever? That's what this is about.
I think that's what I love about the film, is that as much as it reflects on something as painful as what she went through, you know, there's still so many victorious moments in that, and you know, that ending of her being, you know, a hero and being, you know, having that adversity. I feel like that's what I love mostly about the film. Now I just wanted to find out, you know, was it important that the story was told by a female, and what angle did it take? Did you take when telling it?
I'm not saying a man could not tell the story, but what I am saying is there's a very specific understanding that comes with being a male, because physiologically it's different, right?
Yeah.
How our vaginas and our penises are made is different. How we function is different.
Yeah.
So for me, when it comes to a story about a female being savagely attacked and raped and hurt, I wanted it to be a female. For me, if I had to be an audience member, I think it's just a different kind of understanding. I mean, we can take 10 people in this room right now, male, female, whatever. Let's say 5 males, 5 females. Give them all the same subject and say make a film, and we're going to get 10 different films. But all 10 films will get made, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that there's already enough maleness to go around, because the perpetrators were male, that it's let a damn female tell the story of a female survival. But anyone can tell the story, sure. But I think also we had to talk about very, very tough stuff.
Yeah.
But yet our sound man, I'll never forget, John Bruning, he's just the sweetest, one of the sweetest men out there. John, so how we shot the tough stuff, the tough voiceovers, is John and I went, at the end of the day, we went to Alison's house when everything was wrapped up, and John would like transform into, like he became a transformer and just sort of melted into the wall after he mic'd Alison up, and Alison and I will start talking. And I would often just look up to John Bruning, and he's this tough guy. He's got a bike. I love John. And the tears would just roll. He would just stand there and roll. You know, they will stream out of his eyes. Because it's so tough to hear how human beings hurt other human beings. So I found in my screenings with Alison, it's the men that struggle most with hearing it. It's the men who shy away first from watching Alison, when it's them who need to watch it too. So this is not a, you know, and that's why it's a very fine line to say it had to be a female to tell the story. But I do think a female's touch was necessary, because it's hard enough for a man to go and ask her about a vagina. It's just not right. So there was a big sister camaraderie in creating the safe space. But there's very much, like, men were very much a part of this production. And Alison to this day said it was that combination of John and how he would mic her up and the gentleness that made her just, she you know, because I mean, these, like, later on she would lift that shirt and say, get the mic on. I mean, it was such a lovely, I think about those times. It was a really special time, and the right team came together for this. And there were men and there were females, and everyone had their place. But yeah, I think a female's touch was necessary with this one, as the leader, for sure.
Yeah, and as you're mentioning as well, I think goes back to my point that, you know, when something is meant to be, it's meant to be, because you're mentioning that, you know, even the crew and the cast and everyone just, you know, were interwoven, everyone worked, you all were in the same kind of harmony, and that's a beautiful thing. It's great because then you see it in the final product and the final work, because it comes out exactly as that. Now tell me, why was it important for you to make such a film, to tell the specific heroic story of adversity?
Gosh, isn't life one big adversity that we have to find solutions to? Oh my word, we've just been through COVID. How did we even do that? I'm not sure. Hey, and we're not out of it. I keep forgetting it's not done. Just because the sun's shining, it's not over. I'm interested in, and maybe it's the way I grew up, because my mother is very much that person. There was always just some struggle going on for her. And I'm very much interested in finding solutions. I'm a solution-driven person. And I'm interested in what inspires me is people who find a way to go on, even when they're flawed. Because I promise you, Alison, you know, a movie is 80 minutes, right? It's 80 minutes of screen time where we get to choose the most uplifting and best moments. But Alison struggles with this every day. There's good days, there's bad months for her. And this is the part that we did not, my dog is breaking my door down, sorry everyone. This is male, being cute, wanting to come in listening. This is, now he's completely distracted me, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, you were talking about the ups and downs, that not every day, you know, you're full of smiles.
Yeah, so I'm interested in the average South Africans that find a way to get up in the morning. And I want to hear about the days when they don't. And then what do they do to get up again? Because that helps me get up again. So for me, I'm not interested in the superhero that, you know, just figures it all out, because that's not really what gets us going. That's not really what inspires us, right? We find,
and that's not life either.
That's it. I find the inspiration in hearing about this lady that lost everything, and here she is giving me an inspirational talk, or the lady in Pick n Pay who packs a bag for me and tells me about this thing that happened, and I just look and I go, what am I doing complaining? Or my gardener, who is my left and my right hand man, we have so much fun together, and he tells me about what happened on the way to get to me, and I'm like, oh, holy moly. And he's got a smile on his face. So for me, that's the stories that I resonate with, the stories that deserve a happy ending, but the ending is not necessarily just happy. The ending is real life happy, right? Because like I said to you, if Alison could survive that, we can survive anything. So I am just naturally drawn. I'm drawn to the stories that they went through. It's the Terminator. Out of the ashes she rose, right? It's the Oprah Winfrey's. You know, her overnight success, it took 25 years. The Ava DuVernays, if you start scratching and digging, if you look at what it took, now it looks easy. There, Alison E. looks like she's got it all together. No, she doesn't. And it's you know, there's this, someone told me the other day in a moment of complete meltdown, they said to me, how do you eat an elephant? And I said, well, first of all, you don't eat elephants. That's a horrible analogy. I don't want to be a part of it. She said, no, man, just humor me. How do you eat an elephant? And she said, bite by bite, spoon by spoon, baby steps. Those are the stories I'm interested in, and how we don't always get it right, because I learn from you and you learn from me, right? So yeah, it's not the easy solutions that interests me. It's the ongoing evolution of having this conversation, of, you know, all these incredible people around us that is here today.
Thank you. Mbuso.
Hi, Uga.
Hello, nice to see you again.
I'm actually triggered by your mind. Listening to you, I kind of realize you're a special mind. You're a wonderful brain. And I can almost figure out from the answers you've given us how you got to this wonderful space of sharing a gruesome story with the rest of the world and give us an opportunity to be part of it. But what I'd really love to know is, how was the impact on your crew and the audience, especially Alison as well? How did you have to maneuver getting them to see your picture and depict it as intended?
That's a very good question. So because a lot of my crew like, I know my editor, Dan Mitchell, had to go for counseling when it was all over, because, not everyone had the time that I had with the story. So by the time I rolled cameras with Alison, remember, this story has been with me since 1999, where I was reading the book. It already started working in my mind how this was going to unfold. But for many of my crew, as it works with crew, they come in, it's maybe for many of them were young. The first time they hear about the story, they were in nappies when 1994 happened for me. So they were hardly hit by it. And again, Dan is male, an incredible man who edited this film. And Dan brought so much to it with the male energy, because there's a place for everyone in all of this. We need the good men. We need so many of them to just start coming out of the woodwork. And there's more good men than bad ones, obviously. So I know Amy, my camera assistant and loader on this, and she was focus puller as well, because of course budget, we all did a million things. She also had to just take a step back and debrief and all of that. So, and I mean, I held my crew through all of that. Obviously, there was lots of talks, lots of love and talking about things. But yeah, it was tough for them, for sure. But it was also part of the drive, because we worked so hard to get this film made. There was an incredible bunch of people that came together. Georgia Court, the DOP, our post team. I was also pregnant with my second son. I mean, it was one big, gigantic birthing process. And for Alison, I think the beauty of my relationship with Alison was that by the time the camera started rolling, we were already friends, and she knew me. So it wasn't like speaking to the filmmaker or the director or some producer. She was talking to Uga. And by the time the crew arrived, they were just such a nice bunch and warm bunch of people. Everyone just slotted right into all the different roles that they were playing. So it was very much, again, that, a family raises your kids while a family raised this movie. So I think the moment there's trust, the beauty of that is then people are also more trusting with their feelings, and they would tell me when they were upset, or like, oh, I could see, okay, let's take a breather, let's take a break, let's stretch our legs. But I was already, I was ready, and I think that played a big part in me holding the rest of my crew where need be, because I was, nothing in this story could surprise me anymore or shock me, because I've unpacked it. And that was very necessary. It was necessary for someone to just go, okay, so this is the actual knife, right? This is hectic, but I have seen this knife 200 times before. So, without being desensitized, but yeah, I had literally preparation for 3 years. I prepared with Alison for the moment where the camera started rolling.
You've just dispelled a very well-known myth, for lack of a better word, because we're made to believe that as women, you have to tap into your masculinity to get the best results. And from what I'm hearing from you, there's a very motherly approach to how you dealt with your crew and Alison and everybody else. There's the nurturing, there's the wanting to conversate, there's the wanting to talk to them and find out if they're okay, or observe and give feedback based on that. Was that a natural conscious action, or was just that you being Uga?
Gosh, I think it's a bit of both. I mean, I am half Italian, so I like to just fix a lot of things with food. There was a lot of chocolate on that set. I was also, and I was pregnant, right? I'll never forget, Marisa was sure that the best hot chocolate was always around. I think there's a lot of ways to to make people feel safe. And I think, I mean, I'm sure, you know, I'm not perfect, but it's so important for me that everyone feels held and loved on a set, from the driver of the vehicle through to the DOP, through to the editor, through to post. So everyone has had those cupcakes that Alison got. Let me just put that in perspective for you, you know. But I think it's just, I don't know any other way, actually. But yeah, I do like to like, even with actors, you know, I want to reach out to them. I want to have a conversation. And I hate it when people meet on set for the first time. But it's not always possible for us to meet beforehand. So it's just how I work, I think. And not everyone likes it, eh? But I do have an extremely feminine approach. And I'm not scared about it. And if I have period pain, everyone knows. And everyone will get a Miprodol. I love Miprodolls. So that's just my way. And it doesn't work for everybody. Trust me, it doesn't. But I'm not, again, the way I work, I'm not interested in the ones that it doesn't work for. I wish them well and send them on their way with the mwah. I'm interested in the ones that it works for, because those are the people that you gel with. That's the families you create to make beautiful magic and movies. So yeah, if all else fails, get chocolate cake. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, let's just take a breather. Yeah.
Awesome. And I know that this project also gave birth to the Butterfly Revolution. So we'd just like to see what that is all about before you tell us more about it.
Okay.
I'm Alison, rape survivor. I joined the Butterfly Revolution because if I can survive, then so can you.
I'm Riyad Petersa, Bafana goalkeeper, and I've joined the Butterfly Revolution because the goal should always be to protect, prevent, and preserve.
I'm Kim Engelbrecht, actress, and I joined the Butterfly Revolution because sometimes we're made to feel that we are less than, but you're not. You're enough.
I'm Sandra Prinsloo, and I've joined the Butterfly Revolution because I'm one of the lucky ones. Touch wood. In my country, a woman is raped every 20 seconds.
Right.
Wow. Just looking at those testimonies gives me the impression that this is a wonderful initiative. But I'd like you to please tell us about it.
Okay, so, I mean, I learned a lot as I went along. And one of the things I was told was, you can't have a documentary film without an outreach campaign. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay. No budget for that yet again. Let us think of a plan. And the funny thing is, when I even started my Alison journey, for some reason, the first thing I did was I revisited that Charlize Strong campaign that was ironically also done in 1999, the same year I found the Alison story, which was called Real Men Don't Rape. Charlize just rose into the Hollywood scene. I think she just shot her first movie with, after Days in the Valley. It was a big break movie with Keanu Reeves, can't remember what it was called. And she came home to make this ad campaign with the Rape Line. It was still then called Rape Line. And it was styled the same way the Butterfly Revolution was styled, because the Butterfly Revolution is our answer to that. And she just sat in this chair and she gave the stats, and it ended with, you know what, at the end of the day, real men don't rape. Because guess what? Real men don't rape. Bloody facts. And she was ostracized for it. So many complaints by women as well. The ad got pulled from TV, press, people writing letters, people angry. How dare she? Who does she think she is? And then she fought it. She personally fought it. And they put that ad back on air in the end, and an apology was issued. So that always stuck in the back of my mind. And when I started doing my research, I also found out that she arrived and she actually rewrote the whole thing and said, this is what I want to say because I feel so strongly about this. And then that ad was shot. So then to sort of bring it to a full circle, I thought, but hang on, Charlize really did something there, but maybe she was just a little bit ahead of her time for audiences. Let's do an answer to that. So the Butterfly Revolution was created, where we styled it exactly the same way Charlize did, but we used our Alison chair, which is majestical and fairy tale like, because that was the genre of Alison. And rather than saying what real men do and shouldn't do, we're just going to take it home and say, what are we going to do about it? So what are you doing about it? And we literally had 1 day to shoot in Joburg and 1 day to shoot in Cape Town. And I just want to say there were some incredible South Africans who were all willing to participate, but we couldn't fit them into the schedule because everything was done with sponsorships and for free. But 19 South Africans rose to the occasion: sportsmen, sportswomen, famous celebrities, supermodels, incredible bunch, politicians at the time still. And they just said, what were they doing about it? Because I think that's the solution. The solution is not finger pointing here. We know who the perpetrators, and most of them get away with it. Let's just face it. That's the unfortunate fact. But what are you doing about it? What is the individual doing about it? What's the guy at the bride doing about it when derogatory conversations happen? What's the mum doing about it when her young son could be helped in the right direction to become a better man for 1 day? We all have to take our responsibility. And that's how the Butterfly Revolution started. And then that campaign, like I said, it was shot free. That campaign, it came out during the Olympics, and somehow someone caught wind of it, and they broadcasted that throughout the Olympics during the prime spots in many, many countries. And we never saw that coming. So, and then obviously right at the end, there is go watch Alison in cinemas. Let's not forget about that. It was a rollout. But then we also started the Butterfly Revolution. People at home could do their hashtag, I've joined the Butterfly Revolution because. And, we had a beautiful campaign, and South Africans and people from all over the world catching on. That is still very, very close to my heart. And it's on YouTube. If anyone here wants to go check out all the others, there's 19 of them. And again, a bunch of incredible people coming together saying, we'll do it for free. No one was paid for the Butterfly Revolution.
I think what comes to mind for me is the reality that we all know what's happening. We all say the right things. Butterfly Revolution is a campaign, but then we almost need to commit to what next. Have you thought about what we could do further than just what has happened, considering similar things are still happening in 2020? And I'm a little saddened by the fact that it was flighted at the Olympics and we haven't ordinarily gotten all South Africans to see it. So maybe this is an opportunity to just dream big and share what could be ideal. Whether we get it or not is secondary, but we've got 19 amazing testimonies sitting out there that could influence the 50 million South Africans to actually take their part. Maybe we could even do a viral campaign or something, but just share with me your thoughts on how you could see this growing beyond just the current.
Well, just so that you know, at the time we offered it free of charge to all the TV channels and no one took it, just so you know. So it was like, holy moly, you can take the bit at the end about the movie off. That's not why we did it. That was just bonus. We just get this out there because it's inspiring to see King Engelbrecht in a vulnerable position. It's inspiring to see Victor Matfield you know, because you'll see there's a vast variety of South Africans from all walks in life, and representative of our incredible nation in these little snippets. But you know, as a filmmaker, it's often about timing. It's obviously about it's often about manpower and women power. We didn't have money behind us. We offered it free of charge, and there was only so much, you know, you can do. But it's still there. It's still free of charge. It's still available to anyone who wants to do something with it, with pleasure. But I think it does bring us back to the fact that gender-based violence is the worst it's ever been. It's gotten worse since 2016. It's gotten worse since the butterfly revolution. And I still believe that the solution lies with the good people of this country and what they are going to do about it. Not the bad people, because the bad people are far and in between. But that being said, let's just think about it. If 1 out of every woman is being raped, if the most dangerous place for a woman in South Africa and several other countries is still in her own home, if the majority of murders against females is by intimate partners, are the good guys that many, actually? Because can they please stand up, like the song, actually, is you know, because we need that. But it seems to be, there's a lot of things happening behind closed doors that are very unsettling. And there's a lot of small children then seeing all of that and then becoming that eventually. So I still believe that the change starts at home, and that really is the biggest superpower we have, because it's so easy to point fingers. It's so easy to say what you should and shouldn't do. Just take that doormat and work from the inside out. You know, forget about that side of the doormat and go internally and start there. And it can change around so quickly, in my opinion.
You've just mentioned that our little people are superheroes, but our little people are also being brought up into this world. I can't confidently say that as adults, we are able to leave this world better than we found it. But based on your experience and the work you've done, there's a young person out there who's thinking of making an impactful movie, probably just getting emotionally exhausted at the thought of sharing his story. And truth is, not all stories have to be emotionally taxing and draining. Some of them could have a good ending. Some of them could challenge you to do better. So based on your experience and the work you've done, what advice would you give to youngsters in film school or aspirational students who really feel there are stories of such nature to be told, and those stories can actually make a difference?
Find the right people to support you in your vision. And if they disappoint you along the way, keep going. And find the next one who does, because people come into our lives for a reason or a season or forever, right? I love that saying always. And if I look at the Allison journey and the producers who came and went, or the person who just made one comment that was that golden nugget, I always call them golden nuggets, and just keep going. And the only way to do it is to make it. It's so easy. How many people say to you, oh, I have this idea for a movie. Oh, I have this incredible story. I'm really happy for you about all of that, but what are you doing about it? Because it is the single-handedly most hardest thing and most amazing thing and most satisfying thing and exhausting and draining and wonderful to make a film. And the only way to do it is to start. There's incredible support for young filmmakers out there. The NVF, the DFA, the Writers Guild. Every day I see these emails of opportunity coming through. So there's no excuse really, but to just get cracking. And the only person that needs to believe in your story with a die-hard dog not letting his bone go is you. And that's all it needs. And the rest will follow. But it might not always.
I think the story of Alison is really occupying my mind, because having grown up in the township, I've probably witnessed or heard of some gruesome stories similar to the story of Alison, but not quite as heroic an ending. And I think maybe Alison is one of the few that lived to tell the story, but even in telling the story still remained, from what we see, a hero or heroine in this case. But I'd like to hear your perspective of victims being very victorious. How realistic is it on this type of impactful, emotionally taxing movie? And is it something even worth striving for? Should we be trying to remain victorious? Are we not empowering the victors to carry on and think, okay, these people will be fine? Because it feels like the women battle always ends up in isolation, because guys are okay with saying you people, as in you ladies, as in girls are, and we almost compelled to stand with each other. So my thought is more about in the coming out as victorious. Is it a conscious thing? Is it a realistic thing? How could we take it forward, still making sure the message is understood?
Obviously the reason I chose Alison's story is because she was not supposed to be alive, right? There's 11 medical miracles alone why she shouldn't have survived it. But the reality of what you've just touched on is that there's a million stories like this out there, but they just all didn't make it. Their voices were silenced, their journey were cut short. And I think one of the, it still gets me to this day, analogies I've ever heard on this was what Marianne Tam, the journalist, gave me, who also wrote Alison's book, I Have Life. And during the time when I was when we were shooting this film, so that was 2015, yes, 2015, that horrific story of, I think she was called Anine Boysen in Bredasdorp happened, where the injuries, remember that, where the injuries very closely mimicked the injuries to Alison. They raped her, they slit her throat, they disemboweled her. And Anine held on. She made it to the hospital. She identified the guys, and then she passed away, and they got off on a technicality. And Marianne said, so two things about that. Alison always said, what gives her the courage to go on is her guys got life. They went to prison. They got life. And she knows that her story is the minority. And that because if they didn't, she says to this day, she doesn't know if she would have survived it. And every year they come up for parole, and every year that whole trauma comes up for her again. So she's well aware of the privilege of having had a conviction. So that's the first part, my first part of my answer. The second part is back to Marianne Tam, who said to me, and this again goes back to how we raised. Alison was raised by a single mother who, like all mothers, had their mistakes and weren't perfect. But one thing that mum instilled in Alison was that she was worth something. She was amazing, that she was loved. And Anine Boysen did not have that. She went from foster care to foster care. Her mum had problems of her own. There was an aunt, but it just sounds like she had there was a lot of challenges for Anine in her life and in her circumstances. So, and this was the analogy that it kills me. So Marianne said, so when Anine lied in that ditch and Alison lied in that ditch, broken, with nothing left but a will to survive, Alison had the benefit of having known only love and care and safety of a warm bed, a roof over her head, and a mum that was always there when she came home from school growing up, versus Anine, who had so much she had to fight for over and above everything else, that That's that place that only a parent can give you, that place of safety, of worthiness. And yes, the self-help books teach us that you need to know your own self-worth. Yes, sure, that's all good and well. But those primary forming years, and that's why I'm saying it starts at home. Let's do the best we can. So even if you don't have to have money, this is not stuff that costs money. This is basic nurturing, basic love, basic care. And that's always a very nice analogy for me in two stories that could have ended the same way but didn't. And Alison that got the conviction that most survivors don't get. Or worse still, the perpetrator comes out after a few years and lives la vida loca like nothing has happened, and probably does it again as well, because we see that time and time again. So the reality of this is it's not a great one. It's not peachy and clouds of unicorns at all. But we've got to, in that being said, I think if it's and that's very much what the Butterfly Revolution also said. It said you can be silently triumphant or publicly brave, but everything counts. Even if it's just you getting up today, knowing what you had endured, wow, we commend you for that. Or are you an Alison that stands up and says, this is bullshit, and I'm going to talk about it everywhere I go, and I'll do it till the day I die. So there's been a lot of criticism from people saying, oh, she's reliving the trauma every day of her life. That woman has changed so many lives, including mine. So how dare they judge her or any other woman of this country for how they decide to deal with their trauma? Because I'm saying there's no right and no wrong way. We are with you. And the movie is the testimony of that. It's something small we could do.
Okay. I'm just going to selfishly squeeze in a question. I know that our time is almost up, but I really need to know, when you were making the entire making of the Alison movie, we are trying so hard to educate people on gender sensitivity. I'd like to know, did this ever cross your mind? Did you consider how you depict women in this picture? And also, I know that men were violating in this particular instance. Did you try and soften the blow for sensitivity purposes? What did the issue of gender-based violence impact? Well, it's a gender-based violence movie, I admit, but did you have a conscious beacon that you go back to sensitize yourself or to re-caution yourself on certain elements on how you capture a lot of these uncomfortable scenes?
So obviously in Alison, we used a lot of sound because you can't actually see what happens to it. It's too tough. I mean, imagine. So everything was actually done very suggestively with sound and with Alison's voice guiding you through it, right? But I had no intention to soften the blow because I wanted people to know exactly what these two men got up to and exactly how they are never allowed to leave that prison and anyone else who might think about it. But how I chose to do that was definitely planned because you don't have to see physically what they did. There's no need for that. It's tough enough to hear about it. How I chose to depict women in this film, I chose to depict women exactly how they are in this film. Ourselves, every single one unique, some flawed, some less than perfect, some more perfect than others, because that's the beauty. But one thing throughout the board, it's the good. It's that choice, the choice you wake up with every day. You know, the two men who did this to her, the one came out of a very good house and the other one came out of a more flawed system. They still woke up with a choice that day. And that day they chose that they've raped enough women. It was a bit boring for them now. Tonight they were going to kill one, but she had to be pretty. So they even had that. They even wanted, like, she must be too ugly. And I wanted to talk about all of these things, all of these ways that people talk and they think it's okay. Because we need to start listening to how we talk and what we say, because I do believe that's where a lot of this starts. it starts somewhere before it goes into action, right? So I was very honest in people spoke the way they did. I didn't censor them. I didn't say, don't swear, we're on camera. I said, tell me from your heart. Tell me everything you've always wanted to say and couldn't. Tell me what you were thinking when you were lying in your bed and you saw their face in front of you. And it's your daughter, it could have been your daughter. Because I think that's how we need to, like I said to you, just like it starts at home, bring it home. Imagine Alison as your buddy. Imagine Alison as your mother. Because she could well be next if it's 1 out of every 3. So that's sort of what I went for there.
You really feel like a superhero more than you feel like a mermaid to me. And I think having spent this hour listening to your journey with Alison, it amazes me the human element you've brought into a very gruesome act. I know for sure that now I aspire to meet Alison, not out of sympathy though, but out of just seeing that this quest is a real one. There's a big fight to be had. And I don't underestimate the value of film in sending out these messages, in fixing what is broken, in mending the cracks that are constantly created by even what you were insinuating about the talks people have, because it could be 2 little boys talking. It just takes one of them to bring them back to reality that actually it's not okay. This could be our sister. So I'd like to genuinely thank you from the bottom of our heart, Uga, for spending this time with us. But I almost will be honest enough to challenge you to say this is actually a beginning of many more conversations to be had. Might not be at a bigger scale, but there's an opportunity to grow the butterfly effect. There's an opportunity for a lot more youngsters to tap into that mind of yours. And there's also an opportunity for more stories to be told. So I genuinely appreciate your time, and I'd like to thank you and also give you an opportunity to just leave one parting message before we break away.
Thank you. Well, thank you for this opportunity. And like I said, the NWF has been a big part of this Alison journey with me, because they were the first ones to give me the wings for my creative vision when everyone else told me I was mad. Because trust me, a lot of people said a lot of mean things when I was like, I'm going to tell her this story and then it's going to have like a fairy tale element. And they were like, ugh, who wants to see that? So the NWF were the first ones. So I thank the NWF for that as well. And then parting messages, that's always, there's so much I can say. And you know what, it's such a cliche, but I just want to remind everyone that, you know, you don't have to be rah, rah, rah. You don't have to be a Lady Gaga. Look what she did in that, what's that Bradley Cooper movie anyway? Showed a completely different side. And that whatever it is, it's good enough. Baby step it. I think that's the best advice I can give. Just baby step it. And maybe the baby steps, it's one baby step over a week, but it's still a step. And everyone's journey is different. I hold on to the Oprahs of the world because I'm a late bloomer. You know, I had my kids when I was 40 and 41. I made my first film I wrapped my first film when I was 40. So yeah, there's my age too. But just, there's no rules. And sometimes life experience can give you a superpower that you didn't have when you were 20. I would not have been ready for this film in my 20s, even though I thought I was. I wasn't. Not even in my 30s. So just be you. And baby step it. I think that's the best advice for me. And chocolate, damn it, and microdolls. I sound like a terrible addict. I'm sorry, I don't have a problem. But I mean, they get tablets that really help.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Uga. It's been a great conversation with you. By the way, you look amazing for 40. Wow.
Thank you very much.
Look great. Thank you so much.
Lots of love, ladies, and thank you also for the team that put this together.
Thank you, guys. That's it from us.